small businesses. So I've got my first meeting with them tonight.
Oh, okay. Which
Well,
one?
not joined it. I haven't joined it as in paid for it or anything. They've just the one in London. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So
Sam,
yeah.
Did you have that meeting with my dad?
No, he didn't turn up.
Oops.
Gotta smack. Gotta smack. So in his defense, it's been absolute chaos here. There's boxes everywhere and all
But you
kinds
know
of
what,
stuff.
Vicky? When you volunteer your parents for things,
I need to make
without
it
telling them, it's not always a good idea.
I will get him to apologize to
No,
you.
don't you worry. Wait till, when he's ready. It's not a problem, not at all. Okay. I laughed because I almost thought, if my daughter volunteered me something, I wouldn't turn up either.
No, he wanted to. Anyway, he wanted to.
I'm just going to get a bit of light. That looks better now.
So I'm just sticking a little note in the group because there's a few that said they were jumping
Do we need
Look, I've done it,
A4
Steve, I've done
papers
it,
or
look.
small
Oh,
papers
there we
or
go.
what do we need to write on, Steve?
So I would say if you're able to print that, kind of one pager off, then print it out.
Oh, sure. Because I was supposed to
but-
print it. Okay.
But if not, there we go. Sandra's on it. Hi,
Just for
Ashish.
me, Jan. Well, I expected Jan to have done it, but me.
Where did you get that?
On the email.
And I've dropped it in the chat as well, so it's
Okay,
in the
in the chat. Sorry.
That's all right.
Clearly,
I'm looking forward to this. I've never been on anything like this.
Okay, well, look, I mean, you'll see when I go through the slides, the idea of this. Hi, Simon. Hi, Ashish.
Hi, Sharon. Fancy seeing you here.
I didn't see it in the chat, Steve.
Pardon?
It's not in the chat.
It's in the, the BNI chat WhatsApp group.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
If you go to your email, you can just print it off from there. Honestly, it's
Or
very easy. I can do it.
I'll try and drop it into this.
Don't worry, I've got it.
But I think really it's probably going to be better with if you've got a paper and pen, because you can just get a bit wild and scribble more. They're quite small boxes on there. And to be honest, I probably need to supply it as a Word document so people can type straight into Word or a editable PDF or something like that. But that's one for the future. So we've got one or two others. I should have set this up as just a meeting that doesn't require the host to admit everybody, because that's a little learning. So I'll give it one more minute and then we'll kick off. But just before we kind of get into it, I was just really going to say, I'd like this session to be, collaborative. This is not me just talking to you, for a couple of hours. I've allowed a couple of hours. We might get it done a bit quicker. It might run over, but I know one or two of you have got to jump off and, maybe jump back on or, catch up with the recording. So that's absolutely fine. As you'll see, as we go through each stage, you'll get some time to just do a small exercise for 5 minutes, not literally. David Geddy's not on the call, so we're not going to have you doing star jumps and burpees. But there's some exercises just to fill in those boxes. And as I said, this is all about just switching on some light bulbs, marketing strategy, business strategy. As you all know, you run businesses, professional businesses. This is quite a broad subject, and I'm going to try and condense it into a couple of hours. So we'll see how we get on. So we've got Michaela just jumping on. So I'm going to admit her, then I'll start, and then I'll keep an eye on who's coming on. So I'm going to just adjust my screen a little bit.
Johnny's just parked his sleigh.
So I'm still rocking the Santa outfit.
Mate, looks like you haven't left there since yesterday.
It was awkward. I didn't want to mention it, Johnny. You're still wearing it?
Yep, still wearing it. It's a jumper. You can wear a jumper more than one day.
Okay, so... So, I just need to keep an eye on...
Quick question for everyone. Is Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tier 3 it is.
Is that what it is? Is it tier 3, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
tier 3. Yeah.
Gosh.
And Steve, we are as well. Steve.
Oh, are we? Yeah, but we're Bedfordshire.
Yeah,
So
Bedfordshire's in as well.
Bedfordshire as well.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Molten
So
Keynes
no
Council
more coffee cake for us, Steve.
Yeah. Well, all of this, actually, this is good to kind of start this discussion on this, because really, strategy is about trying to prepare your business, for the future, and having a strategy is obviously better than having no strategy, having a plan that you can pivot. And as we've all seen this year, you could have had the best, marketing strategy in the world, but nothing would have really prepared you for what we faced. But it does give you a sense of where you need to sort of adjust your plan. If you didn't have a plan, trying to create a plan from scratch, is harder than, pivoting from your existing plan, as you'll see as we go through. So if I stick it on presenter mode, I can't see anybody in the waiting room. So thanks guys for sort of joining this afternoon. It's going to be a couple of hours. There's like breaks, as you'll see the way I've sort of split it up. So as we go through, I'm not going to introduce myself because you all know who I am. But what we're going to cover today, so as you'll have seen from what I dropped into the chat and what I dropped out on the email, is just a really simple, one-page marketing strategy in effect. And if you complete the boxes, that just starts to give you a bit of clarity over your thinking and a bit of clarity over your direction. As I'm sure Simon will attest to, in terms of the sort of cascade of stuff you have to do in your business, you start with your business strategy and your business plan, and then the marketing plan kind of feeds into the business strategy. So in essence, the marketing strategy is there to deliver the objectives that the business has. So obviously in the way we're doing this, it would make sense to have a chat with Simon in the new year and get yourself booked in for a marketing plan, and then this essentially will help you deliver the business plan. So we're going to cover winning aspirations. So what does it look like to win in your business, in your sector? So we're going to try and craft a really tight statement that just kind of sets out your winning aspiration for 2021. We're going to look at brand values, why they're important, and hopefully come up with some brand values for your businesses. The brand promise, which is slightly different to the winning aspiration. The winning aspiration is a statement of intent about the goals that you want to achieve in your business. The brand promise is slightly different and is more sort of focused around delivering for the customer. We're going to look at target customers, why they're important, how to create your ideal target customer avatar. They're called lots of different things. Of course, you can't understand about targeting your customers until you understand who they are and their needs and wants and desires and all of that sort of stuff. I'm just going to keep an eye on the Zoom just to make sure nobody else is waiting. We're going to look at so where to target them, your message to take to them, the capabilities that you need as your business going into next year. So in order to deliver your plan, what questions do you need to ask of yourself? What gaps do you need to fill, whether it's knowledge, whether it's people, whether it's technology? And then just finally, we're just going to look at what metrics to track in your business that will help you keep on track and identify, where you can potentially win, and the ideal sort of marketing budget that you need to put together. And then there's an opportunity for a Q&A at the end of that as well. So if you have any questions, you can ask as we go or save them up and I'll answer them at the end. So as I've said a couple of times, the objective for today is to switch on some light bulbs and to get you thinking about strategy. We're not going to solve everything today, but the idea is that we just switch on some light bulbs, get you thinking in a different way. So what is strategy? I mean, boiled down and in its real simplest form, you're essentially trying to solve, a problem or various problems. And you start with the problem, and then you have a number of hypotheses. You have a number of possible solutions. You then want to ideally test those different solutions, and then choose the winning strategy, choose what's working. Because at the end of the day, as you'll see in a second, there's no perfect strategy. It's all about making choices, making decisions, but being able to measure those choices and decisions so you can do more of what's working and less of what's not. This is known as a strategy cascade. So this is a system that's used or was used in Procter & Gamble, who are manufacturers and license holders for some of the world's top brands. This was a format that was used by the CEO at the time, R.G. Lafley. And then he developed this into a framework. So, understanding what is your winning aspiration as a business, understanding, where to play. And that is all about, I'm just going to let David Carter in. And that is all about understanding the playing field, geographically, digitally, where are you going to put your business? Where are you going to go and find your customers? How are you going to win in your sector, in your market? And I appreciate for some on the call, this is not always about winning, but there's a phrase, some play to play, some play to win, and ultimately the ones that play to win will achieve the most success. What capabilities do you need? And we're going to come on to that. And what management systems do you need in your business? And that's what's called a strategy cascade. Hi, David. Welcome onto the call. Hope you're well.
Sorry, I couldn't find the blooming link, and then
that's all right.
I realised in the chat box, but I've been looking everywhere else, so apologies.
That's all right. That's all right. Okay, so strategy is about making choices. To win, a company must choose to do some things and not others, and I think that's really, really important. I think we live in an age where there are so many choices about what to do. Actually, it's about choosing what not to do. So strategy is about increasing the odds of success. And as we said at the top of the call, there is no such thing as a perfect strategy, but having a strategy nudges the odds in your favor against your competition who may not have any strategy in place. But there's no such thing as a perfect strategy. Just ask Manchester City, Manchester United, Arsenal, Tottenham, who all lost, the title last year to Liverpool. They will have started their season with a strategy, but ultimately it didn't work out for them when it came to the crunch. So apologies if there's any fans of football other than Liverpool. Successful strategy combines rigor and creativity. So it's about being creative and scientific together. It involves generating and testing hypotheses. And that's all it is, really. You're testing something that you think will work. But there's no perfect strategy. And I'm sure, again, we've got some brilliant minds on the call. David, from your military background, you can have the perfect strategy, but if it's not executed well, or you haven't got the right things in place or the right teams in place, it's not going to happen. Does everyone understand that so far? Is everyone kind of on the same page? Okay, so in the top left-hand corner of the really simple one-page marketing strategy, we had winning aspiration. And I just wanted to share with you some ideas around why it's important, obviously, to have a winning aspiration. You need to define what winning looks like. We're coming into a new year. It's this time of year where everyone's creating goals and objectives and New Year's resolutions. But for your business, what defines winning for you? So your winning aspiration describes what your business exists to do. It needs to be concrete, specific, and ambitious. So there's no point, just shooting for the same of what you got this year. You've got to be, trying to take your business to the next level. Think about what winning looks like for your customers, because it's your customers that you serve. And your winning aspiration should really have your customers at its heart and at its core. It needs to be future oriented. And finally, it's got to be personal to you and your business. There's no point trying to share the same winning aspirations as one of your competitors. So I've got a couple of examples for you, and I'll just give you a second to just have a read of that and just let me know what American airline you think of when you read that statement. It's not one of the big flag carriers, but they're quite a big organisation. This one's a bit of a toughie, but any spring to mind?
Virgin.
They do come up a bit later, but no, it's not Virgin. This is Southwest. So their winning aspiration is to deliver the highest employee and customer satisfaction and to be the highest profit airline in America. That's their winning aspiration. It's got customers at the heart, it's got their employees, and it's got a metric aligned to it. So these are just some ideas to give you a little bit of inspiration. So there's the next one. If anyone want to have a guess at that one?
Nike?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone want to have a stab at this one?
Is that you?
You?
Yeah. So, you know, it's not just about big businesses having these kind of statements. You know, it's important for businesses of all sizes to have this. So this is the first kind of little mini pause that we're going to take for a few minutes. I've put 5 minutes, but we might be done a little bit quicker now. You know, sometimes to create a winning aspiration can take hours. It can sometimes take boards, days to create this. I just want to get you thinking a little bit about what winning looks like for you. So having a look at some of those statements and just see if you can have a little stab for a few minutes. We'll take a pause at what a winning aspiration statement would look like in your business. So I'm just going to wind back to that slide that sort of talks about, you know, what a winning aspiration needs to have in it. Does everyone understand so far?
Yep, makes sense.
So we're just looking to create almost a single sentence statement of what winning looks like for you, for your business for next year. If like many on the call, you know, we're solo entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, whatever language you want to use. But we're running a business and we're representing a business as well. So, you know, what does it look like to win for you? What does winning look like for your customers? Just a reminder of what my one was. So it's got, you know, it's got my customers at the heart of it, helping them build an ambitious, helping them build a tangible asset. So, you know, they're moving away from being the employee and managing the business, and, you know, it's driving growth, and there's a time frame in it. And then what it'd be great to do in a few minutes is just go around and just see what we've got, and anyone that wants to sort of share what they've got. We can do a little group critique. Anyone got any questions so far? See, normally if we're all in the room together, there'd be biscuits, there'd be tea, get up and walk about.
What sort of biscuit, Steve? Tempt us.
Oh, it would have to be a chocolate hobnob. It's the only biscuit, isn't there? There's no other biscuits. The best Dunkers. We just give it one more minute. You know, we've got a lot to get through, and, you know, the idea of today, as I said, is really just to, you know, start switching on some light bulbs. You can revisit this, you know, and as with all of this sort of stuff, you're not deciding forever, you know, what your winning aspiration is. This is just to try and get you thinking along the right lines and you'll see how this kind of all, you know, plugs together a little bit later on. Has anyone kind of got something that they want to share? Anyone feel comfortable sharing? You don't have to.
I'll share it because I found it quite difficult. So
It is. It's really tough. If you've never been asked to do this sort of thing before, or you've never done it or thought this way, it is really tough. But go for it. It's got to.
yeah,
Got to
and
start
I think
somewhere.
it's difficult for me being a business within a business, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but
So
you will have your own set of ambitions and what you want to achieve. So maybe craft it around.
Yeah, and I value feedback really because it's the first time I've done it. So I wrote to deliver a service to customers and team while using individuality to create the highest standard of excellence.
I think that's perfectly achievable. I think try and sort of try and weave in there some sort of futuristic time bound sort of wording, but I think that's a great start. You've got the customers at your heart of it. You've got them positioned right at the heart of your statement. Okay.
Well, better than I thought then. Thank you.
Yeah, no, look, these things, and you can always revisit it. And if you feel it's, there's too much to it or you haven't been specific enough, you can always craft it and change it.
Yeah, well, you did say it can take hours and hours and hours.
It can. I'll share in a minute, another example on the, the brand promise, which can take a while. But anyone else want to share, and then we'll move on.
I did one. I put take great pride in offering best quality, ongoing customer care service.
Okay. Try and sort of, that sounds almost like a great customer service statement. And of course, customers have got to be in there, but try and make it something that's measurable. So, if you look at mine on the screen, we've got, it's, we want to create an asset of their business. So that's definitely measurable. And we've got the 90 days thing in there, not suggesting yours necessarily needs to be bound by time, but just think about how you can build something in there that you can define whether you've achieved that in 12 months or not.
I've got one, Steve, if that's all right.
Yeah, go.
To help ambitious business owners who are eager and serious about their growth within 2021 to double their turnover and triple their bottom line profits within 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, brilliant. That's got all the elements in there. It's time bound. It's has your customer at the heart, what's important to them. So I would say, if you're struggling, come back to that, come back to thinking about your customer and what's important to them, and try and, craft your statement around that. We're going to move on, only just because, we are sort of limited on time, and I do want to, get through as much of this as we can.
Ask one question, Steve, please.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you do this with a long-term view in mind, or do you do it like for a 12-month view? Because for me, for instance, with a new business, I'd say, in the next 12 months, I want to become this in MK, but later on in the UK, or do you from the start go for the big vision?
I would go through, the different phases of growth that your business is going through. So if you're a startup and you're really sort of planning for the next, 6 to 12 months, then craft your winning aspiration around, what's in your immediate field of vision. Then you might have a longer term sort of vision for the business in 12 months time, where you might take on investment, you might take on people, and then your vision for what winning means to you and your customers is going to be different then. So it's, there's no right answer. Is what I'm saying. Okay, well done, guys. Hopefully you've got something down for that. So we're going to move on to brand values, and brand values are really important because they start to shape your tone of voice. They start to shape your business, how your business is perceived by people. Now, normally this exercise, when I do it face to face with people, I have a deck of cards, and I'm not going to do a card trick because that's Colin's job. But normally I have a deck of cards, and each card has a word on it. And I don't know whether you can see that. That word says scientific or artistic, momentous or everyday. So every word has a sort of an opposite: clever, sincere, savvy, or scholarly. So the idea is that we want to get you to a point where you've got some words that you are associated with, and if you think about brands, all brands have words that they're associated with. So If I said precision in the motor industry, you would probably think BMW, Mercedes. In the drinks industry, if you had the word fun and playful, you'd probably think of BrewDog. So every brand has words associated with them. So we're going to do a quick exercise, and again, it'll only take 5 minutes. But in a normal situation, when we're running a workshop, this could be an hour or two, and you'd normally do it with everyone that's involved in the business. So as a quick exercise, what I'd like you to do is write down 3 columns on a piece of paper, or on the back of the printed one-page plan. And in the 3 columns, I just want you to write at the top: we are this, we are not this, and we're torn. And as I say, in this deck of cards, normally each card would have one of these. So we've got you are this and you are not. So when we're doing it face to face, what we would do is kind of put those down in a row and then start to put the word cards under each column. But we can't obviously do that because we're online, and that would be silly. So I've prepared a list of words for you, taken from the deck, the brand deck. And what I'd like you to do, just as an exercise, is start to think about the words that you would like. If you represent your brand, if it's you're a personal brand, so someone like Sandra, I would say you are your brand. UW has their own set of brand values, but each distributor within UW will have their own personality. So essentially what we're trying to do here is just draw out a personality. Similar with Jan, and then, for others that own a business, you maybe want to think about this as your brand. So how do you want to be perceived in the eye of your customer or prospective customer? Does everyone understand that so far? So 3 columns. Yeah. And then, this is not an exhaustive list. So if you can think of other words, then put them into the 3 columns. And just start to write down words that are you, that are definitely not you, and you're just not sure. And then the idea is you want to distill your list. There's no right or wrong number for what needs to go into each column, but ideally you want to be left with about 6 to 8 words that will start to form your brand tone of voice. And if you think about it, every brand has words that are associated with them, especially, in things like the banking industry, as an example. So if you think of Metro Bank, you think playful, simple, fun. I think playful was mentioned a couple of times there. But if you think of HSBC, you're probably more thinking, I don't know, high-end, formal, exclusive, for some of their products, professional. It's not to say Metro Bank aren't professional, but if you walk into they call them stores, don't they? I don't even think they call them banks. But if you walk into one of their banks, it's, they'll have dog biscuits down for pets. They'll have little play areas for kids. So they're purposefully portraying themselves. And just be careful to choose words that you think might be good to be associated with, but in the mind's eye of your customer, actually it might be seen as a negative thing. So I think I'm a bit cheeky, but do I really want to be perceived as cheeky to my customers? So just think carefully about some of the words that you pick. And then we'll give this a couple of minutes, and then we'll hear what a few of you have picked. this is great when you do it as an exercise. So you get the leadership team in the business to do it, you know, the board, the senior exec team, and then you get the staff to do it, you know, the employees to do it. And yeah, you can often get some very, very different perceptions of what the brand is. You know, the board will generally like to think it's everything they want it to be, but the employees will often give a different view. And then if you're interested, you know, later on, so into next year, I can organise a deck of these cards for you. And a good little exercise to do is to take a photograph of a few of the cards, put it on social media, and actually get other people to kind of give you their viewpoint as to, you know, your brand values. Okay, does anyone want to share what they've got so far?
Yeah, I can have a go.
Yep, go for it, Ashish.
My smaller, I'll go from right to left. We're torn, so adventurous, radical, geeky. We're not this artistic, playful, laid back, casual, cheeky. In terms of we are this, I had added one factor because that focuses on our niche. So for example, tech focused,
yeah,
futuristic, open-minded, analytical,
yeah,
professional. So all sort of the terms that normally people expect their accountants to represent.
Yeah, that's really good. And you've got, what I think is really good there is you've got tech focused, which traditionally might not be a word that a traditional, you know, accountancy practice would choose, but that very firmly kind of sets you into your niche where you want to position yourself. So, you know, the idea with the brand values is, you know, you articulate these and then you sort of compare it to your marketing that you're putting out there and the messages you're putting out there. And there shouldn't be a disconnect. What did you have under We're Torn?
I had adventurous, radical, and geeky.
Yeah, I mean, they're interesting ones to debate. And normally what you would do, you'd have that pile of, you know, We're Torn. And then gradually you would sort of work through those words and go, yeah, we're not that, you know, or yeah, we are that, you know, we are a little bit geeky, but do we want our customers to think of us as geeky? Yeah. I'm not sure. Adventurous is quite an interesting one.
That's right.
You know, do you want your accountants to be adventurous? I don't know. It's, you know, you've got to think about this as the ethos of your business, but what you want to be perceived with, you know, about in the mind's eye of your customer. Does anyone else want to sort of share?
A lot of the words that I chose, Steve, were actually, we are this, okay? Yeah. And I did put in one or two, I think, of my own as well. So do you want me to run through the list?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
Okay, so I put down that we're professional, we're playful, we have fun, simple, approachable, dependable, basic, respectful, energetic, quite adventurous, focused, holistic, because I saw the word scientific came up and I thought, okay, holistic.
Yeah.
Because we use social media a lot, well trusted. We are high end, you know, ingredients and everything. So we are quite articulate, really, in who we have as who become members. So
yeah, and I think you could almost say all of those words describe you and your brand, but I think what you've got to try and do now is really be strict on yourself and get that down to 6 to 8 as a maximum, because it's very difficult to create, you know, focused messages if you've got too much in there. So, you know, if you know, with a Ashish, you know, he's got a core set of words there that you could build, you know, build your messaging around. If you've got too many, it makes it harder. You're making it harder for yourself, essentially. Anyone else want to share what they got before we move on?
I've got a few different ones, Steve, I think.
Yeah, go for it, Sharon.
So I've got something in each of the columns, but for me, the torn one is cutting edge and complex, because we have a different approach to financing, and the way that we do things. So,
yeah,
but then we don't want people to be put off by that. So we sort of play it down a little bit. We are not this playful, cheeky, adventurous, fun, artistic, vintage, and standardised.
yeah.
And we are emotional, current, wise, professional, trusted, calm, respectful, dependable, focused, approachable, and wise. I've got wise twice.
So the immediate thing I pick up on there is emotional and calm seem at odds with each other. What was your rationale for those?
Well, for people that write their wills, it's very emotive.
Yeah.
And we have to be calm in that situation.
Yeah, okay. So I think what you want to do there is drop the word emotional, because this is what you want to be perceived as in the mind's eye of your customer.
Yeah.
So I don't think you want to be perceived as an emotional business. But empathy or empathetic might be a good substitute for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all really good words, and all I would say is what I said to Jan, really, which is now try and refine that down to a core set of words. It doesn't mean you're excluding words. This just means you're getting a bit more focused and a bit more targeted with your messaging.
Yeah.
And how you want to be perceived, in the market, which is really important. So what we should have now is those two quadrants completed. And as I say, we're condensing what is normally a 1 or 2 day exercise into a couple of hours. So whatever you've got will do for now, and then you can refine it later. So you should have your winning aspiration and now your brand values, what you'd like to be known for. And now we're going to move on to something slightly different to your winning aspiration, although there are some similarities to it. But essentially what we're trying to do is create a promise, something that is unique to your business, that you can hang your hat on, and you can say whether you've delivered it or whether you haven't. And your brand promise really does put your customer at its core. So just like we did in the other exercise, there's a statement there, and what brand would you associate that with? Any ideas? We actually had it in the first section. Somebody said Virgin Atlantic. I think it might have been Vicky. So that's their brand promise, and the brand promise needs to hurt if you don't deliver on it. So if you're on a Virgin Atlantic flight, and the staff are surly and down and short and snappy with you, well, they failed on the fun. If you never go on a Virgin plane and find it sort of outdated and old looking and tatty. They're very modern, very contemporary. And price is something, they're mid-market, aren't they? They're not the cheapest, but they're not, well, unless you're flying business class, but they're not, the real top end. They do try and offer good value for money. So that's their brand promise. The next one is quite easy. Anyone want to have a stab?
BMW.
Yeah. And theirs is almost a bit like a strap line as well. In fact, I do think they use it as their strap line, or they have done in previous campaigns. And then this final one, just see if you can guess.
Brand Trump.
Good shout. Probably the world's most famous brand, isn't it? Now, actually, you may well look at that and go, actually, that isn't. I don't get that when I think of Coca-Cola, especially if you've drunk the stuff. But if you think about places like Starbucks, I think Starbucks was all around, creating community and value and giving back and everything else. And it's a very nice altruistic sort of brand statement, brand promise. But actually, you know, I don't go into a Starbucks because I think I'm giving back to the community, or I feel like I'm giving back to, you know, the farmers that grow the beans. I go to a Starbucks because they're there and they're convenient. So as much as, you know, brands would like us to believe some of this stuff, it's actually in the mind's eye of the customer. So, you know, so there's three. But I just wanted to, you know, because of brand promise, I've shared three of the world's biggest brands there. And of course, you know, we've got an audience of solopreneurs and smaller businesses. But, you know, this can be just as powerful. So I just wanted to share with you two examples of brand promises that I've been involved in creating. So creating exceptional leaders is for a current client of mine, and they're a training company that train executive assistants and PAs. And we wanted to create something that was a promise. And their promise is, train with us and we will turn you into an exceptional leader. And that would hurt if somebody left their training courses, but they didn't get that sense, or they didn't achieve that, then they would be breaking their promise in effect. And then the next one I just wanted to share, because some of these words have come up, and somebody mentioned about, I think it was you, Sharon, said it's actually quite a complicated process what you do. But the customers don't want to hear complicated. They just want to hear simple, straightforward, easy, stress, hassle-free, you know, friction-free. So making the complicated simple was the previous business that I worked in, which was Vanarama. You know, their process is very complex. The process of leasing a van is extremely complex. But their brand promise is, we will make the complicated simple. So your brand promise, and just think about your own business and what you want to deliver and what it means to your customer and what it will mean. So it needs to be something that if you break it, you know, it hurts. So your brand promise should be simple, no more than a sentence at most. Credible, so you should be able to deliver it. Memorable, so if you've got a team, you know, they should be able to recite it. And I think that feeds into the simplicity one. Different, it needs to separate you from your competition. And there should be an element of inspiration around it. So my brand promise is profitable growth for trades. Short, sweet, simple, does what it says on the tin. And it's got a statement in there. If we're not profitable for them, then we've broken our promise. And if they're not growing, we've broken our promise. So you don't have, you know, these things, don't overcomplicate it, just keep it really simple. So yeah, just again, another short exercise for a few minutes to think about, you know, your brand promise and what it means to your customers. Create something that it's going to hurt, you know, if you fail on that. And by the way, there's no pressure on any of this stuff. If you can't think of anything, park it and come back to it when you've had a few drinks over Christmas. The example I shared with Vanarama, that took, I think, 7 or 8 leadership team and board members about 4 hours to come up with that, which sounds ridiculous when you look at it. It's only 4 words, but we went all around the houses, you know, with so many different things, and ultimately we distilled it down to that, because that mattered to our customers, that the process was simple. And if it wasn't simple, then we broke that promise. Good to see you, Johnny. Thanks for dropping in, and you know, we'll share the recording with you.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care.
Bye.
So Steve, can the brand promise and the brand value be very similar?
Yeah, so your brand values could feed into, that's why we've kind of done it in this order. So your brand values could form part of your brand promise. Because
part of our mission statement and our ethos in the company is doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's probably, you might want, I mean, it would certainly do as what I would say is a placeholder, but you want to try and be a little bit more specific. Doing the right thing is very broad. So is there a way of, of just being a little bit more specific? What does that mean? Always doing the right thing. You're not far off with that. Like I say, this sort of stuff, you can, write something down and then come back to it in a day or two, or you might just think of something that's slightly more refined. There is no right or wrong answer, and this has got to be right for your business. But I think the most important thing, it's got to hurt if you don't deliver on it. I think it's a fair statement. Always, doing the right thing, always doing the right thing, gives a sense of ethics and trust. And anyone else want to share what they've come up with?
Yeah, I've pinched pretty well yours, Steve. I thought I've put just profitable growth for SME businesses.
Yeah. We're not looking to try and reinvent the wheel.
Again, around the growth, although this was maybe too targeted, I don't know whether you try and aim it for a niche or not. So, for example, accountants for fast growth businesses, or similar to what David said, grow your business faster with Alexander Ross. The go-to for fast-growing businesses. So, all about focusing on growth.
Yeah, I think what you want to try and do is make it sound less of a snappy marketing strapline and more something that's akin to the values that we discussed. Some brands do, but in essence, this isn't your brand promise. Isn't a consumer-facing statement. This underpins your business and everything you do in your business. So making the complicated simple was really it was a change of mindset in the business to how can we make every process in the business simple, because we knew that's what our customers wanted. They were busy tradespeople. They wanted a simple, friction-free process. So it wasn't a consumer-facing, because it wouldn't have made too much sense. So just, try not to go down that rabbit hole almost of trying to make it a marketing statement. Try and sort of craft it around, your brand values and something that, you can underpin your strategy on effectively.
Steve, can I ask the same? I think I'm doing exactly the same, Ashish. I've said domains made easy, which also seems to be more of a slogan, although it is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, so again, using the example of Vanarama, making the complicated simple. If you were to break down the process of registering a domain name, all of the back-end processes that go on, having a sort of, an interest in web and tech and all of that, side of it, I know it's incredibly complicated around, propagating the name around all the name servers around the world. There's a multitude. So you could have something, not too dissimilar to Vanarama's, which is making the complicated simple, domain buying made simple, So I think you're close.
Okay.
I think you're close. Just conscious of time. We've still got a few to get through. So whatever you've got, write it on your sheet and you can always come back and revisit it. But it's important you understand, the process and why we're doing it. So we've got our winning aspiration, which ultimately defines success for us and our business for next year. We've got your brand values, and now we've distilled the brand values into a promise. Now we're on to targeting customers. So this is all about starting to understand, who our target customer is. So we've talked about, what's important to them in understanding our brand values. Now we want to really get into the detail about their interests, their worries, their goals, their friction, their values, and then more pertinent questions around, where they hang out, Who do they hang out with? You know, there's a whole bunch of questions that we can ask ourselves. So you will have been, you know, you'll be familiar with things like customer personas, ideal client avatars. You know, it's got a multitude of different names. But essentially, we're just trying to understand a few really important elements that make up our customer. Because if we've got a product, we want to make sure that that product is right and it's solving their problems. And I know, you know, Jan, Sandra, you'll be all over this from training from UW, I'm guessing, about understanding their problems and what have you. But, you know, we'll run through this, and then hopefully by the end of this, we'll just have a bit of a clearer idea of our target customer.
One of the first exercises we did when I joined on was to, you know, describe your own avatar. So that's quite useful.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, this starts to get you thinking about, you know, who to target, and you will have multiple customer personas. If you've got a range of products and services, they're not all necessarily going to be targeted at one person. But, you know, if somebody says to me, like I was on a call this morning with somebody who pitched an idea for a new service. And the first thing I said was, you know, you've got to, who's the buyer? Who's ultimately the person that's going to be buying this? And is what you've just pitched solving a real problem to them? You know, and that's really important. So the key ingredients when you're talking about customer personas is, you know, their demographics. So they're normally fixed things that you can segment people by. So their age, their sex, where are they located, their education, marital status, income. You know, these are normally fixed parameters, fixed political views. Then you've got more sort of emotive things, which is things like their lifestyle, you know, their social class, their personal characteristics, their principles and beliefs, activities that they, you know, hobbies, interests, what jobs they're trying to complete in their life, what problems do they have in their life that need to be solved, and what friction are they experiencing in their day-to-day life. And then you've got the third ingredient that goes to make up your customer avatars, your customer profiles, ideal client. And these are firmographics. So where you're targeting, you know, potentially B2B, but also in a B2C environment, so business to consumer or business to business. You also might want to understand where they work, what their job title is, where they work. But if you're targeting businesses, understanding things like, you know, number of employees that they have, their turnover level, understanding their company status, understanding whether they deal with B2B or whether they deal direct to the consumer. So there's three elements to this. And ideally what you want to get to is a point where you've got a single customer avatar that you can hang your hat on. And I think the one that sticks out for me on this call is David. Every week he turns up and talks about Joe, and he really understands what's happening in Joe's life. And he could, you know, if you said, describe him down to a T, what he's wearing and where he's sitting and what he's doing, and, you know, he would just be able to nail it. So what we're trying to do with this is just get a good idea of who our customer is. But then there's a number of other questions you should be asking yourself. And this is really important stuff, especially if you're going to either pay to advertise, or, you know, if you think about networking, that is still, you're paying to advertise, you're paying to put yourself in front of an audience. So these are the sort of questions you want to be asking. What class are they? Working class, middle class? What hobbies or interests do they have? Do they play golf? Do they like football? Do they like crocheting? Where would they normally holiday? What TV shows do they watch or films? What music do they listen to? Where do they consume their media? Is it Netflix, Sky? Are they more sort of traditional TV or radio? What are their values? So we've gone through our brand values, but what are their values? What sports do they play or watch? What car? And, you know, I won't go through every single one, but you get the idea. It's understanding what's important to them. And then this is an example. This it comes out in many, many different formats, but this is just an example layout of what a good ideal customer persona template will look like. So if you look across that, you've got their basic demographics, how old are they, gender, occupation, all that sort of stuff. Then you've got your psychographics. Then you want to try and distill some of that information into a snappy little bio. And then you've got what problems have they got to be solved and what are they worrying about right now? So the world is in a state of flux. Many markets have changed. Customer avatars, personas 12 months ago are going to be very different to what they are today. So ideally, this is a yearly exercise that you want to conduct and go through for your business. Now, if you've got many different products and many different services, you might have multiple personas. But we haven't got time, obviously, to do all of that today. So we're just going to do a really quick exercise. But I just wanted to give you a live case study in my world. So I don't think he'll mind me sharing, but I'm doing a little bit of work for Darren at the moment, targeting people on Facebook that want a mortgage, but they will have adverse credit, or they may have adverse credit. So I had to try and get into the mind of that person to target them on Facebook. We had to start somewhere. And in this instance, we've got an individual that is between the ages of 25 and 45. We're not targeting by gender, so it's open to all. And then they're UK based. This is why, this is important to do this stuff, because where you are wanting to target people, you've got to understand. But to help us build an audience on Facebook, I then started to think about, well, in the world of, David, who's a 30-year-old who's got some little credit problems in his near past. What are some of the interests that he might have, or what may be associated with his life? So he may well have sought advice from the Citizens Advice Bureau, for instance. So that's a good place to start. So on Facebook, you can target people with lots of different interests. He may well have acquired his current residence through a housing association, but may be looking to buy it in the future. And he may be wanting to try and get back on track. So he's seeking advice from money saving expert. Because of his habits online, we've identified that he's currently a house hunter. So he's looking around, he's registered on the various platforms, but he's also run his current situation through a mortgage calculator. And through that, we can detect that he's in the market for a mortgage. But he also follows pages on Facebook like Zoopla and Rightmove. So we've started to now build a picture, and we can now go forward with a proposition to him that we think will kind of that he'll be interested in and will want to take further. So that's why it's important. So now your turn is to I'll go back to this slide, is to just sketch out in no more than maybe a dozen lines what your ideal client looks like, who you want to target. Important thing for this is it's not forever, it's just for now. So just because you pick one persona doesn't mean you can't target anyone else. Think about your key products or key services and who are going to be the likely buyers for those. Where are they going to hang out online? What problems have they got in their life at the moment? If we were doing this for real, then we would have all of this filled out and more. But just for today, we're just going to focus on a number of key attributes. And like I said at the top of the call, this is all about, switching on some light bulbs for you, so you can take this information away and then come up with more customer avatars and go deeper into them. So you've got your demographics, your psychographics, and your firmographics, and you've got some of the key questions that you want to get into their world. You want to get inside their head. You may already have these in your business and in your world, but it's always a good opportunity to sort of revisit them, because what was true of someone 12 months ago is not going to be true now. their world is going to change. Yeah, if we think about the average office worker 12 months ago, you know, they were worried about where they're going to buy their Starbucks, where they're going to go and get their lunch from. Now they're worried about posture, how they're sitting, the fact that they're sitting down all day, the fact that their world has shrunk. So it's always good to revisit at times of flux. For business owners, priorities have changed and shifted. You know, 12 months ago, it was all about, I don't know, where can I get the latest iPhone? Now it's more survival. It's how can I invest that money in training, in growth, in, you know, their world has changed. So we just give it one more minute. And then if anybody wants to share what they feel is their customer avatar persona.
Interesting one about what's your favourite top 5 apps. I wouldn't have even dreamt of that being on the list.
And actually that can be really important if you're running paid advertising, because you can target those apps if they offer in-app advertising, or normally an app will have a following on Facebook or Instagram. So you can then target those, you know, those people that like that particular page. So, you know, if you're trying to target business owners, you might say Trello, which is a project planning software, and then you can target people based on that. Or if you're trying to tap into fitness enthusiasts, or dieters is a good one, because you can target people that have downloaded MyFitnessPal, or have an interest rather in MyFitnessPal. So it's just thinking about things in a different way. Okay, does anyone want to share? We'll go through one or two. Does anyone want to share what they've got so far? Yeah, go for it, Michaela.
I was on the firm side for the commercial cleaning. I haven't really done much on this, but I described it as close to other clients we have. So in terms of logistics of cleaners getting to them.
Yeah.
And then between 50 and 100 employees is probably our target at the moment.
Yeah.
And then key worker offices, so people who can't work from home, that are providing like critical service that need to be in the office, like call centres and things like that.
Yeah.
Probably B2C typically.
Yeah.
Because, I suppose I'm just assuming on that one, but I didn't know on the firms, is there more to drill down to than that, or that list, is that sort of exhaustive?
No, it's not an exhaustive list. I mean, you could look at another one in there that's not in there. You could look at sector. So are there particular sectors, you know, that, or government, or, you know, so a sector would then, you know, potentially lead into, are they government? Are they medical? Are they military? You know, I'm dealing with a guy at the moment whose industry has been shot to bits because he supplies into offices. And I said to him, well, look at the markets that you can serve. You know, medical is a buoyant sector. Government is always a buoyant sector. Schools and education have always got money.
Yeah.
You know, so you can keep adding to that list of characteristics. But that's a great start. It's a great start. And then, you know, you just want to try and delve deeper and deeper and deeper. The more you understand and the more you know about, you know, these people, the more you can refine your message to them. You know, you can look at data, you can look at industry data, you can look at Google Analytics to get some of this information. You can look at, you know, run your own customer surveys. You know, if you've got sort of 50 to 100 customers, or you can get some quantitative information from them, so you can get a lot of quantity. Or if you've only got, I don't know, a dozen customers, you know, when we can, it's a bit difficult at the moment, but I was going to say, take them out for a drink and, you know, just start asking them, what do you love about our business? You know, the best advice I ever got in this industry was, you know, if you're new in a marketing role, in any sort of business, the first thing you want to do is find out what your existing customers love about your business. What are you getting right at the moment? What are you nailing? Why did they choose you? Because if you can understand that, then, you know, that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all right. So ideally now what we should have is, the box is quite small, but what we should have now is just some key characteristics of the people that we're targeting. So we're going to move on to the next section. So now we're starting to understand about our target audience. We've started to craft what we want to be perceived as in their mind's eye, you know, with our brand values. Now it's starting to understand, you know, where to target them. And if you remember, one of the statements that I made at the start was around, you know, strategy is about making choices. And, you know, there are so many tactics out there that you could be doing, so many things that you could be doing. You know, really good strategy is about choosing what not to do. It's about saying, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're going to focus on this. So, so now you understand more about your brand and target audience. You can think about where to find more of them. So I've just got some ideas, and then, you know, this section is really just about getting you to think about places where your ideal client congregates, where they hang out. You know, if you think about the word congregate, normally you think of a church, but actually, you know, the word congregate is about bringing together people with like-minded interests. So much like a church will bring together people of you know, same or similar, you know, religion and faith. What you're essentially doing is you're wanting to find where your ideal customer is hanging out. So we've got the usual suspects. We won't labor on these too much. You know, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. Anyone know what that last one is?
Oh, is it?
TikTok. Hands up, who's on TikTok here?
My avatar isn't 10.
You know, that is so interesting. You know, TikTok has the highest growth of over 40s of any platform. It's crazy.
Yeah, because they're just trying to find out what their children are doing.
You know, there's some big businesses on TikTok, and like I say, the highest growth is in the over 40s on TikTok. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but it's you know, the idea of putting that little curveball in there was just to get you thinking about places that you might not think are where your target audience is. You know, can sometimes, you know, you can flip it on the head and go, actually, yeah, they are there. I didn't think that. But, you know, these platforms change. You know, if you go back sort of 12, 13 years ago, Facebook is where all the young kids, you know, hung out. Then us adults kind of came along and decided to open Facebook accounts and started adding their kids. And then the kids, you know, deserted it. And then you look at Instagram. Instagram has a very broad range of users. YouTube, you know, is just about anybody and everybody. LinkedIn is pretty much Facebook, but for business people. You know, it's a platform where it's become more normalized to sort of share, you know, non-businessy sort of, you know, posts and updates. And Twitter is generally where everybody goes for their news. And yeah, I just threw TikTok in there because it's somewhere that you might not think, but is a really creative platform. Obviously, you can do networking. You know, networking takes many different forms. But with networking, you know, this is another critical thing about choosing what to do and what not to do. There is so much networking out there. You know, there's an explosion of networking, especially in the last sort of 6 months online. But where are you going to invest your time? Where are you going to find your target, you know, customer? So you can be busy doing a lot of stuff, but is it stuff that's contributing to growing your business? Podcasting is another idea to reach your audience. You could start a Facebook group. You can run paid advertising on any of these platforms and more. Bing, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You can run paid marketing on LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere. But again, it's about understanding who we're targeting. So we can't target anyone until we understand who our target customer is. So if you take the example of the little project that I'm working on for Darren, for example, you know, we had to understand a bit more about the customer before we could then just go, you know, kind of casting our net, because we don't know where we're fishing. We don't know what bait we need. We could use direct mail, hugely underutilized. We could build a list, an email list. So you could be doing what we're doing now, which is hosting a webinar, give some value, you know, give some information for free. You know, create a book, a lead magnet, you know, start sending that out to people, start getting people signed up to it. Or you could rely on traditional TV, radio. You could probably add, you know, leafleting, newspaper ads. You know, there's so many available tactics to us to reach our target customer. It's about choosing what not to do. And that was quite a famous phrase from Michael Porter, who's an absolute master of business and strategy.
My use of carrier pigeons hasn't been a good option then, Steve.
It's not worked thus far, but maybe it's you're employing the wrong pigeons. Maybe you need to train the pigeons better. Okay, so this is back over to you guys now for this bit. We're on track, so we can take our time a little bit. So this is over to you to start thinking about the channels and tactics that you can use to target your ideal customer in 2021. And, you know, we're already doing a few of them. You know, we're doing some networking, some of us more than others. But what else, you know, if we go back to that, what else could you be doing that's going to connect with your target audience? I've just launched a podcast for one of my clients, who's the training company, Your Excellency. So how that's working, they're getting influential people from within the industry to appear as podcast guests. So they're getting their reach, but they're also tapping into the reach of the guest who's coming onto their podcast show. You know, Facebook groups are, you know, potentially a good place to acquire and demonstrate authority to your target audience. Paid advertising, very viable strategy for a lot of businesses, especially if you're a local business and you know, you want to sort of connect with consumers. And also think about, you know, your social media platforms that you're on at the moment. You know, where are you getting most value? You know, for my business, if I'm being perfectly honest, I'm getting more value from Instagram than I am from LinkedIn. So I'm reducing my time on LinkedIn and putting more time into growing my Instagram account with target customers.
Steve, one thing I was told a couple of weeks ago, which I think would work with you as well. We get these free once a month, 3 or 4 pages with particularly a lot of trades, and they're advertising in the area. And that says to me, or the light bulb was, it's saying to me they want business, so they're keen to grow, and therefore they're exactly the right people to then contact, to have a conversation with, to say, actually, do you want another chat about how I can help you grow even better?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, Simon sent me somebody screenshotted or took a picture of an advert in a local sort of publication and sent it over. So, you know, as a strategy, it's very viable, definitely. And I think the idea with this section, and again, you know, we're not going to solve all our problems and create an entire marketing plan, you know, from this exercise, but this is just to get you thinking about maybe some stuff that you've been doing this year that hasn't really worked. And do you decide to, you know, keep it? Do you drop it? Do you come at it from a different angle? Or are there stuff that you could be doing, like you just said there, David? I mean, you know, it's not something I currently do at the moment. Time is an issue, but could I employ a VA to make those initial calls? Could I get Shireen on the case? Absolutely, I could. So it's got to be there on the table. So if I was filling out that quadrant, you know, local community magazines, you know, would be on there.
You haven't mentioned like old-fashioned cold calling. Is that, I know you're doing digital marketing, but is cold calling like just not something that
I think it works if you're being targeted and you've got somebody good on the case. My preferred way of cold calling, if you like, is to try and not cold call. To try and just warm them up a little bit, and that's why direct mail is on there, because direct mail, the response rates to direct mail is very low. But have you got a plan for following up? So could you send something to them as a little gift or a little mailer that then just it just creates a little bit of a warmer contact?
Yeah,
it's something as a company that we do quite significantly, and we have a back-end system that will produce an email with a list of products that would be of interest to them after an initial phone call, and then I send the information and then follow it up with the phone call, and it's no longer a cold lead. But it really does depend on your lead source, because to get a telephone list, one, it has to be checked to make sure that it's current.
TPS,
and secondly, it has to be people that have expressed an interest in what you do.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful where you get your lead sources from.
Yeah. Or you think it's going to solve a problem. Sorry, Simon, go on.
I personally wouldn't do cold calling. I mean, Steve's exactly right in terms of it needs to ideally be warm. So that's either contacting them first on LinkedIn and starting a communication that way, and then giving them a call, direct mail, as Steve said, or something similar, sending them an email perhaps. But I would try and provide them with some information up front, and then when you call them, you've got something to talk about. And if they haven't read it, then no problem. You can start talking about it.
So this is something that as a franchise, the franchisor is looking to provide for us in terms of marketing, like generating leads. But I don't know, maybe we have a chat afterwards, Mark. Steve, separately.
Yeah.
Because I just wonder whether I want to pay a marketing levy for someone to make. Or they would effectively be cold calling, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if it's going to form a part of your sort of marketing strategy going forward, is, think carefully about it. Think about the ROI. So think about how much is either to acquire a list plus mail to it plus follow up. How much is that going to cost versus, how many do you need to convert? So how many, warm conversations do you need to have for that then to convert? I've got something on this later on in the decks which we'll cover. I'll give you an example. So recently we've done a campaign for a tutoring company that wanted to speak to head teachers about the National Tutoring Programme, which is a fund which has been provided by the government to as a catch-up mechanism for students that have fallen behind. So they hire private tutoring companies. So the challenge was, how do we get to speak to head teachers? You can't just phone a school and say, hey, I'm, such and such. I'd love to speak to your head teacher. No, goodbye. It's not going to happen. So we put together a pack that went out to the head teachers that was, a nice envelope, a handwritten envelope, a letter inside, a covering letter, an insert which gave a bit more information. And here's the kicker. We put in a personalized bar of Cadbury's chocolate that had their name on it. So your goal with, with direct mail is, firstly, obviously making sure that the list is accurate and it's going to the right person, making sure that, the person that gets it opens it, and, making sure you make them smile, because it's really important to make people smile and make yourself memorable. Then when you do follow up with a phone call, the chances are, if it's a personalized bar of chocolate, it's going to get to the person that needs to see what you want to show them. The school secretary who's opening the mail is unlikely to devour the chocolate. It's going to get to the person that you want to get to. So try and think differently. Think about how you're going to get in front of that person and what tactics do you need to do. And then when you make that follow-up phone call, you can say to the gatekeeper, hi, it's Steve from ABC Training. Just wanted to check that your head teacher got information on the National Tutoring Programme. You might remember because there was a bar of chocolate in there. you know, and it was, oh yeah, oh, that was yours. Yeah, 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 we did wonder, and, you know, she got it and everything else, you know, and it just starts that relationship. It starts that conversation. Okay, so you will now have hopefully written down some ideas for next year, stuff you might still be doing, stuff that's worked this year and you want to carry on doing. But does anyone want to share anything that they've thought of that maybe, you know, has come out of this discussion that they could be doing next year? Or any tactics that they've written down?
I think for me, as we've already discussed in previous conversations, it's making sure that what you decide to do, you actually action. Because
100%.
I'm looking at my list, thinking of all the things I had on it at the beginning of this year, and what have I actually done? Yeah. And it's, you know, that I haven't done probably half of what I've got on the list, which is not good.
So that takes us back to that slide. You know, it's choosing what not to do. There's so much that we could be doing as business owners. It's about, you're absolutely right, you know, refining that plan so you're not overwhelming yourself. So you've got a fighting chance to execute what you say you're going to execute as part of your plan for next year.
The other thing, Steve, that I need to do, or I keep thinking about, is to actually have an accountability partner. So you've actually got somebody that, you know, we all push back the boundaries, and lastminute.com is me more and more now. But to have somebody that you're just going to have to report into, and that means you suddenly rearrange your priorities. So the football match, or the, you know, the whatever activity that suddenly is important, you say, well, how am I going to justify that to whoever your accountability partner is? And you sort of readjust those priorities and actually get things done. And with my background, having those sort of targets and deadlines is something that I'm comfortable with, but also quite often need. Otherwise, I'll drift.
I think that's a really great point, and I think you touch on something there that's really important when you're creating a strategy. Is it's ultimately being accountable to somebody. You know, you're accountable to your business, but it doesn't always mean it's going to happen. And I think the idea of having an accountability partner is really important. So I don't, you know, I'm sure she won't mind me sort of saying, but you know, Kelly, who's in the Diamond chapter, we kind of feed off one another. We kind of set each other little goals. You know, we both operate in very similar industries, but targeting very different customers. And we kind of use each other really to sort of say, right, when we meet up next, or when we catch up next, you're going to have done that, right? You know, and you sort of kind of, being accountable to somebody is really, really important.
And of course, David, that's what you and I are about, because that's one of the benefits of having a business coach.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm good at being someone else's accountability partner. Not quite as good.
Maybe we should be each other's then.
So so I shared in the chapter a few weeks ago a testimonial for Simon. So I did the business plan with Simon, which actually is on my desk. There it is.
There it is.
So it's there. It's on my desk, and that serves as my little bit of accountability, because it's I've got it to hand all the time. And I didn't that wasn't a setup, by the way. It's always there. It's you know, I'm always looking at it. So that's my little bit of accountability. Okay, so moving on to messaging. So now we've understood a little bit more about our business and our brand, our winning aspiration, our values, our brand promise. We're starting to understand more about our customer, and about where to go and find those customers as well. So this section is about our messaging. And if you look at the cascade and why we've done it this way, this starts to build a picture now of our winning aspiration. What do we promise that we're going to deliver for our customers? What are the values that we hold dear as an organization? And what we want to start to do now is really start to understand, you know, the products and services that we offer. And what we want to try and identify is, you know, some headline benefits. You know, so we want to start to understand, you know, who are we pitching this at? Why should they care about our message? You know, what problem does it solve? you know, and what's the end result of what we deliver. Because, you know, you will have heard it many times, or maybe not, I don't know. But people buy results. You know, they don't buy the thing. They're not buying the brand. Brands might like us to think that, but we're buying the result of what the thing gives us. So, you know, Peloton is an exercise bike, a high-end exercise bike. You know, you're buying into the brand, of course you are, but you're ultimately buying the result that it will deliver for you. So with that in mind, there is a thing called a benefit ladder, and you kind of start at the bottom, which is where your product is, your product or service. And if you think about this as a ladder going right up the top, and you can apply this to many, many brands across the world, and you should be thinking about this for your business. So in this funny little cartoon, you've got somebody munching on a packet of crisps. And at the bottom of the kind of benefits ladder, the feature of those crisps is they're salty and they're crunchy. They have a flavour. The benefit that they deliver is it relieves hunger. A step higher from that, you can share them. So a packet of crisps, if they're big enough, you can share them. You can bring your family in when you're sharing them. So you can take them to an event, and we've all been there, haven't we? Or whether it's just me, I don't know. You turn up at a barbecue and you bring out the Pringles or something, and suddenly you're elevated to legend status because you've brought something to the party. You know, so we've all been there. Somebody brings I don't know, pigs in blankets crisps, which seem to be the big ones at the moment. But anyway, so you know, and ultimately the highest level that these crisps will deliver is happiness. And who thought that from just a packet of crisps? But you've got to think about your business this way. And I think the top one is being a little bit ambitious. But ultimately, you know, the idea with this benefits ladder is you've got to try and go as high as you possibly can. And I'll give you an example in a moment. But another way of articulating this, so this is the fun way, but the other way of articulating this is, so we've done the bit at the bottom, we've defined needs and our target, you know, audience. Your product or service will have features. Features are great, but they don't really, there isn't really unless you can articulate the benefits to those features. You know, if you've ever been shopping for a TV, you'll be bamboozled with all the features. It's 50-inch, it's smart TV, it's got 10 SCART sockets, it's got 10 HDMI sockets, it makes you a cup of tea in the morning before you get up, it's this, it's that. They're all features. And unless you can articulate them as benefits, they will just remain features. So, for example, if you're buying a cordless drill, so we'll use a cordless drill as an example here about a benefit ladder for a product. So ultimately that drill, you're not buying the drill, you're buying the hole that it creates. And on the benefit ladder, you know, that drill, that cordless drill, the features of that cordless drill, well, it's cordless. It operates at, you know, 1500 RPM. It, you know, fits hundreds of different drill bits. It's got a motor that delivers X amount of torque, etc., etc. The functional benefit of that is that, you know, it's cordless, so you can use it anywhere. So that's a functional benefit of one of the features. It's cordless, and I can use that drill anywhere. The emotional benefit, the step higher than that, is I can get my work done quicker because I don't need to keep recharging. I don't need to, I can work more freely, and I can get more work done because I don't have to worry about plugging in an extension lead or being near somewhere where there's power. So I get more work done. So that's the emotional benefit. It makes me happy because I can earn more money, and I can earn more money and I can deliver a better standard of living to my family. And who knew that from just a drill, eh? From just a drill, we could make our family happy. But if you think about your own products and services in that way, then you start to build this really important message that you need to deliver to your target audience. So, you know, Michaela, in your business, you know, people aren't buying cleaning services, they're buying a clean house or a clean office. But no, what's the, you know, the ultimate emotional benefit? It's saving them time, more time that they can spend with their family, time that they can use to, I don't know, in this current environment, homeschool their kids. Their kids will have a brighter future and ultimately will pick a decent nursing home for them when they're older. But it's like, how high up that ladder can you go? You know, and it's a funny example, but it's a really great example of just a packet of crisps can have that much impact on people's lives. So think about your product or service and how this benefit ladder starts to feed in. Does everyone understand that? It's if you've never come across that before, it could be quite a strange concept. But does everyone kind of understand why we're trying to do that? Because when we're selling a product through marketing or just ourselves, when we're talking about it, what we tend to do is talk about, well, it's got this and it's got that and it's got, you know, and it does this and it does that. But what we forget is that the functional benefit of that. But what's the end consumer wanting to feel from having used or bought our product? You know, so, you know, in Simon's world and David's world as business professionals and coaches and mentors, you know, the accountability is something that we spoke about, but, you know, steering and direction and focus and clarity, what does that mean? You know, there'll be a lot of features of, you know, David's and Simon's businesses, but what are the benefits of those features to me as an individual? What's in it for me? And how's that going to make me feel? So just for a few minutes, just try and articulate, and you might want to do this just on a piece of paper. So take one of your products or services and write it on the bottom of the ladder. And then, you know, start writing the features. And we might not have time to sort of completely finish this exercise today, but start writing, you know, the features. And then for each feature, you want to then turn that into a benefit. And then once you've got that functional benefit, think about the emotional impact on somebody's life that's going to have. I mean, in Sharon's world, lasting power of attorney brings peace of mind. You know, it brings a calmness. I do actually need to speak to you about that in the new year, by the way. But, you know, it takes away worry, it removes stress, anxiety, all of those things. And ultimately, when we're creating our marketing messages, these things really matter. We don't want to talk about the features. I mean, you know, I might get it written, I might get it sent to me in a digital document, it'll be emailed to me, it'll be stored securely. That's great. You know, all things I need to know, but, you know, what's it doing for me as a person? What do I get out of it?
Protection, I think, is the big word.
Yeah. So we'll just give that a minute, give you a little bit of time to think, and then if you do want to share, great. If you don't, not a problem. But that's how I would do it, is just get a piece of note paper and just draw the ladders or the steps. And start at the bottom rung with a product or service. Then on the next step above or the next rung on the ladder, list out the features. Then for each of the features, the main features, there needs to be a benefit. And then for each of the benefits, you want to try and get to that emotional benefit. Does anyone want to share what they've come up with, if they've come up with anything? Like I say, we don't have to. It's quite, you know, it can be quite an alien concept if you've never done this sort of thing before. But, you know, this is really just getting you thinking about the marketing messages that you put out the importance of tapping into the emotional benefits of what you deliver. Really important, actually, when you're writing social media posts that are, aimed at promoting your business. You don't want to just list off a load of stuff. You want to ultimately tap into what's important to them. So again, just using a recent example, so the mortgage ads that we're running, we talk about, dream home quite a lot. We use the words dream home, which is, the emotional benefit of getting a mortgage. It's getting you into that dream home that you've always wanted. If anyone wants to share what they've come up with, go for it. If not, we can move on to one of the final sections.
I don't mind another go, Steve.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm specifically doing with this business mentoring program that I'm halfway through, and I want to launch in January.
Yeah.
It may be wrong, so please pick me up. But it's an online-only support mentoring program. So any business, they clearly, a bit like we've been experiencing, they save the time and the travel costs because it's all online only.
Yeah.
It's a turnkey system. So the benefits are ease of use. It's been evidenced and trialed to make sure that it works. And again, that saves time.
Yeah.
The templates allow for speed and flexibility.
Yeah.
There are upgrades. So the benefits are there's additional choice and there's a pretty well guaranteed ROI. And the final one is there's no tie-in. And so that allows them confidence, flexibility to not have to sign up for a period if things get in the way.
Yeah.
And that's about as far as I got.
No, I think that's really good. And let's take one of those. So the product is business mentoring.
Yes.
One of the features is it's online only.
Yes.
The benefit of it being online only is it saves time and travel.
Yes.
So what you want to try and do there, and I don't think we got there, was then climb another step and say, what's the result? What's the emotional benefit or the result of saving time and travel? So the obvious one is, more money to invest in your business.
Okay.
Because you're not spending that money on travel. So more money to invest in your business. And we're kind of doing this on the fly, so this may or may not be the ultimate. More money to invest in your business means potentially more profit or more growth. So already, you've gone 1, 2, 3. You've gone 5 steps up. So it's business mentoring. One of the features is it's online only, which will save you time and save you time and money traveling, which means you will have more money to invest in your business and more time potentially to execute what you learn.
Brilliant.
Resulting in more growth. So you're going up the ladders to this ultimate emotional benefit of more time, more growth, more money to invest in your business, and importantly, more time to execute what you learn.
Great, thank you.
And ideally you want to do that for each of the features. So you've got your baseline product, which is your business mentoring. You've got a range of features of this, and ultimately you then want to, and then to put this into practice, when you're talking about this in your marketing, you would kind of, you can almost come up with a standard template. Business mentoring, for ambitious entrepreneurs, online only, which means we'll save you time and money traveling, which means you will actually get more money to invest in your business and more time to implement what you learn. Could be the marketing statement that goes with that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alrighty, we'll move on. We're sort of we're on the homeward stretch. so this last bit really is just thinking about the practicalities of executing, the plan that you're starting to put together. So we're going to delve into so what do you need to bring this, this strategy and this vision to life? You've got your winning aspiration. We've got the semblance of a strategy coming together. But what do you need to do to kind of bring that to life? What capabilities do you need? And I just thought I'd put down a few ideas, just conscious on trying to keep to time. This could be a vast subject, and obviously we can't cover it in the depth that I would like to. But what I wanted to do is just give you a few ideas of capabilities that you need to think about. For you to execute your new plan, your new vision, your strategy, what do you need to stop doing that isn't productive in your life? That for me, and I'll open up a little bit here, is probably the most important thing going into next year. I always find loads of stuff to do, tinkering with bits of software, going on courses, listening to podcasts. I mean, they're all great things, but I really need to get a lot more streamlined and a lot more structured in what I'm doing. So stop doing things that aren't productive. Do you need to redevelop your brand to help you execute? So some of the stuff that we've come up with about your brand, your values, is that in keeping with the creative, your visual element of your brand? So do you need to revisit that? To help you achieve your strategy, do you need to look at new products or services that have been identified through looking at your customer personas? Like we said, the game has changed for everybody over the last sort of 10, 11 months. So is your product or service offering meeting the demands of the market? And if it isn't, is there an opportunity there, to do some other things? What software do you need in place in your business to help you deliver your vision? So CRM is just one example of software, but you could have project management software, accounting software. What systems capabilities do you need in your business? Do you need to take on new people, or do you need to outsource particular tasks? Stuff that you might not want to do, or stuff that you might not have the skills to do. So do you need different resources in your business? Do you need to look at your customer service offering? So we've come up with our brand promise, but it's not a promise unless you're really able to deliver on it. Otherwise you're going to fail on that. So do you need to look at your customer service, your processes, walk the floor as the customer, as they would say in retail? Make sure every touch point, that you're delivering excellent service. Take on investment or a partner. If you've got ambitious growth plans now as a result of sort of revisiting your winning aspirations, do you need to look at outside investment or potentially recruit a partner? And actually on that one, we sort of touched on it with, Simon and David sort of talking about accountability, or David talking about accountability partners. So it's not just about investment, it's about getting the right people in place in your business to hold you accountable as well. Do you need to learn a new skill or develop an existing one to help you deliver your winning aspiration? If you're a bit short on social media skills, is there a course you can do? If you want to start doing videos and you want to host create a YouTube channel, what learnings do you need for that, or can you outsource it? And then you want some sort of mechanism for tracking customer feedback. Feedback is one of the most valuable things in business, and actually proactively asking for feedback is really important. Customers will give you feedback generally when they're unhappy, rarely if they're satisfied. So you can be proactive and run a little survey to identify what you're doing well and what you can improve upon. So that section is quite a short and sweet one, but it's important for you to understand what you need to change or what you need to, to invest in to help you deliver your vision, to help you deliver your strategy. So I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes. And as I say, we're bang on time for the 2 hours. So just have a look at that. And, that's not an exhaustive list, by the way. There's, dozens and dozens and dozens of things you could be doing to get in place. And this is going to be specific and bespoke to your business. So just have a think about some of those, and ideally in the box on the bottom left-hand corner in the middle, you've got space there just to write a few things down, to write some notes about what you need to do to bring your vision to life. How have we found it today, guys, so far? We've got a last section to finish off, but has it been useful?
Brilliant.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Hopefully it's, just got you thinking in a slightly different way. It was never the intention to, to be able to create a sort of 20, 30 page, marketing strategy from this. But if it's got you thinking a little bit differently about some of the challenges coming up, then mission accomplished.
It's good to take the time out and reflect, isn't it?
100%, yeah, being able, it's a luxury if you can do it, but being able to take a day out and just, put your foot on the ball, think about reflect on the year as part of your planning, business planning and marketing planning for the next sort of 12 months. Yeah, just taking time out. There's a book, Thinking Fast and Slow, which is a really good book to read. And there's also another book by a guy called Ryan Holiday, which is called Stillness is the Key. And it's all about stoicism and the art of stoicism, the art of just slowing down a little bit and being a bit more reflective and thinking about things in a more of a calm way, which is not always a luxury for everybody.
Well,
there is something in that.
Luxury. I think it's a necessity. You
Yeah.
can only run an efficient business, whether that's marketing or business as a whole, if you have a plan in terms of what you're trying to achieve.
It's making time for that, isn't it? It's scheduling the time.
It's time well spent. Every comment I get back from customers, it's sort of, for the time invested, as we're finding out with this session here, it's, reaps its rewards in the future.
Okay. So I'm not going to ask you to kind of share, unless anybody wants to kind of share some thoughts on that. We've sort of had a little mini discussion on that. Does anybody want to share kind of some of the stuff that's going to help them bring their vision to life next year? No? Good. Okay, so by now, on our one-page plan, yesterday's audience was much better, I've got to say. No, by now,
Anything else?
I'm only joking. By now, so you should have, the beginnings of a framework to sort of work to at least kind of prompt that further discussion. If you're working with, business partners or you've got other people in your business, to just, it's strategy is all about asking and answering questions, and that's what we've done today. And then the final one that we're going to sort of look at today, it's just about how we track, and some of the numbers that are really important when we're making key decisions about our business and especially around our marketing. So it's, what I'm going to do now is just share with you a few ideas around, what you can measure in your business, what's important to measure and why it's important. Okay, so, we all know that phrase, if it's not being measured, it's not being managed, which is really, really important. If you're not looking at some of these numbers, they will run wild. You won't have an understanding, and you won't have an understanding how they affect areas of your business. So understanding some basic numbers in your business allows you to make some informed decisions with your marketing. So some of these numbers are your average order value. And for everyone on this call, this is going to be very, very different. Understanding, that average customer order value is really important. Of course, it's going to be a number somewhere in the middle of, whatever your upper and lower limits are. But understanding that is really important. How much is that customer worth over their lifetime? Much harder to do if you're a new business. If you're a new business and there's market insight or market data, that can sometimes give you, this information, or if it's a model that already exists, that may well be there. When I was working in van leasing, obviously, people would, on average, renew their vehicle every 2 years. But as the business had been going for nearly 15 years, we were able to tell that on average, a customer would lease a van from them something like 3.5 times. So we were able to work out, the average lifetime sort of value that customer was worth. Cost of acquiring a customer. So we're all spending money without even thinking about it. We've invested in BNI. We invest time. That has a cost attributed to it, especially if you're a service-based business that's exchanging, time for money. So how much are you spending to acquire each new customer? And what are your conversion rates like at each step of the sales funnel? So this kind of articulates what I mean. So, I need to speak to X number of people, which effectively is going to be your marketing spend. It's going to, effectively get you in front of a quantity of people to generate X leads. And that will then start to give you your cost per lead. So how much have you spent to speak to, X number of people? And then how many of those people have then turned into a lead? So, are interested in what you do and want to take it further. And that's your cost per lead, but also your conversion rate at that top part of the funnel. How many people do you need to speak to get a lead on the phone? And how much have you spent to do that? So that sort of starts to give you some of the numbers that you need to understand. And then what's your conversion rate from lead to sale? So how many do you need to speak to at the top to generate X number of leads, and how many of those leads will then turn into a bona fide customer? And then you're starting to understand, the cost per sale. So the cost per transaction, per sale. And then we're starting to understand, so each sale is worth an average of X to my business. So I'll take my business as an example. One of the packages I offer for the plumbers and the trades is a flat retainer of £1,000 a month. If they stay with me for 12 months on average, hopefully they'll stay longer, but if they stay with me for 12 months, then, it's a lifetime value of £12,000, but an initial order value of 1,000. So, how much do I need to invest in my marketing to get, profit going into my business? So you've got a range of numbers there at each step of the funnel, which, starts to give you an understanding of what you need to work out in your business. So right at the top, how many people do you need to speak to? So how many then will turn into a lead? How many of those will then turn into a sale? How much is each sale worth to you? And then ultimately, how much is that customer worth over their lifetime? You know, they're the key questions that you need to be asking. So just as a final little exercise before we sort of start to wind up, just think about some of the metrics that you maybe haven't thought about. Maybe you haven't even, maybe you haven't tracked them. But just think about going into next year, which of those numbers would you like to track and their importance to your business? And I'm sure Simon, Ashish, David, could sort of kind of give more on that. For this is purely from a marketer's perspective. I don't write business plans. I don't write, cash flow forecasts and all that sort of stuff. I just look at, how much is it going to cost to get a lead? How much is that lead ultimately worth? And how much are they going to spend over their lifetime? And the reason why this is important is because if I can understand that an average tradesperson to my business is worth £12,000, suddenly, if I had to spend £1,000 to acquire one, that doesn't seem like such a high amount of money to spend. But if they're only going to spend £100 a month with me, no worries, Sandra, she's gone. If I only had to, if they were only going to give me £100 a month and they're going to give me £1,200, then that's not a great investment. So really understanding these numbers is really important. And for some of us, it's going to be relatively straightforward. For others, you're going to be selling multiple products at multiple prices, multiple different services. But ultimately, what you're trying to get to is to create some averages. I don't know, Simon, if you want to add anything to that from your expertise.
No, I mean, what you said is exactly right. I mean, running a business is all about the numbers and understanding them. And a key part of that, clearly, is the marketing conversion rate. Because until you know how many customers you need to gain your revenue for the quarter or the year,
yeah,
and how much that's going to cost in marketing, it's sort of throwing a dart at a dartboard and hoping it sticks.
Good analogy. Spot on. I mean, I met up with one of the plumbers that I work with. We met up for a coffee the other day, and he wants to grow next year.
Hi, Jess, Sophie.
Might need to put you. Oh, there we go. He wants to grow next year, but because we've been working on campaigns for him, for the last 9 months, we now know what his conversion rates are on his website. We know what the conversion rate is for his adverts, and we know on average how much each customer is worth, and we know on average how much it costs us to get somebody onto his website. So we know his web pages convert at 30%. We know that each click is going to cost us about £3. So we can then do some informed decisions about the cost to acquire a new customer for him. So each lead is costing him about £11, and he's converting about 50% of his inquiries into paid business. So understanding those numbers, we can then start to do some projections for him, because we know how much it costs to acquire a new customer. So that's why it's really important. No worries, Sharon. Thank you so much for dropping in. There'll be a recording that will go out. There's a little Q&A bit at the end, so you're not going to miss too much.
All right.
Thank you so much for your input. Hopefully it's been useful for you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Right. Take care. Have a nice weekend. All right.
And you. Bye.
Okay, so you just need to start thinking about and fill in that bottom quadrant with what you need to measure going into 2021 to be able to define success. And I think right at the top of that marketing funnel is how much is it costing you to acquire a new customer? How much money are you spending on marketing to acquire a new customer? And it's fine if you're spending 500 quid to acquire one customer, if their lifetime or average lifetime is, you know, 5 grand or 10 grand. But it's not fine if they're only spending a few £100s with you. You know, that's where it causes problems. I worked in a wine business last year where their cost of acquiring a new customer was on average, when I started with them, about £100. The product that they were selling was a box of wine. So each sale was £20 and it was based on a subscription. And the average length of a subscription was 3 months. So they were losing £40 for every customer. You know, we managed to get the cost of acquisition down to about £15, but still, you're not making much money out of it. You know, so it caused problems, and unsurprisingly, that company no longer exists. So there we go, guys. Hopefully that's been useful for you. Like I said, this was really just about switching on some light bulbs, getting you thinking kind of a bit more strategically about your marketing, your messages, your brand, you know, what winning looks like for you. We've asked a bunch of questions as we've gone along, but does anyone have anything else?
I just want to say a big thank you, Steve.
Pleasure.
You know, I think what people have got out of this is worth hundreds of pounds, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Very generous of you to spend this much time with us. So much appreciated.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I mean, this is actually for me, you know, this is about, you know, in BNI terms, me educating my sales team. You guys are my sales team. So if I can't give you a little bit of training, you know, who can I train? So, you know, that's the way I sort of view this.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So does anyone have any other questions? Hopefully you've got, you know, the semblance of a bit of a plan and a bit of a vision.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Just echo, really helpful.
Yeah.
I've got something I wanted to chat to you about afterwards about Google Ads. Actually, we've been approached by another company to do something with them, but if you had any capacity next week for a chat, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we can have a chat about that. Yeah, 100%. So the final thing I want to leave you with, I promise there's no big upsell, but if you do want to sort of take your plan just a little stage further, then I am offering this additional little service. We could book a call either before Christmas or in the new year, go through your plan. I can feedback ideas. I can help you refine it, help you improve it, and help you understand the next steps to kind of get it out there and alive in amongst your business. And that would be over Zoom with me, because we're all in bloody tier 3 lockdown. But there we go. So that's it. Thank you so much for all your input. It's been a good session. I only wrote this, this workshop, a couple of weeks ago, and it's the first time I've delivered it like this. So it's been useful. So any feedback would be really appreciated. There'll be a playback version which I'll put up onto YouTube, but it'll be a private because some people have shared stuff that they might not want everybody to see, but be a password protected video, which some of the other BNI members might want to see. So it's certainly been a pleasure to sort of help you guys and get you thinking a little bit differently, about next year.
Many thanks, Steve, and taking your time to educate us, and obviously a lot of insights for us to think about for next year.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, Jan, Simon, Michaela, David, Ashish, and Colin. Thank you so much for sticking on the call. I know it's been difficult for everybody. There's a lot going on at the moment. So I don't think we haven't got a meeting next week, have we? So have a great Christmas, guys, and I look forward to catching up with you in the new year. But do drop me a note. You've got my email address there. If there's aspects of it that you don't understand or you didn't quite get an opportunity to explore them further, drop me a note and I'll happily sort of jump on a call. If you want something a bit more structured with a bit more time, you can do the sort of power hour thing, and I'll happily answer any questions or whatever. So,
Steve, I thought that was fantastic. I just wonder if there's any way you could open that 2-hour session to the, almost the wider BNI community. Timing's probably ideal. you know, perhaps to do one at the beginning of January, a complete duplication of what you've run through now, a 2-hour, they come on board, it's not a freebie, they come on board and pay 47 or 97 pounds, and they'll get some really good value out of it. And you could potentially open that up sort of to almost the UK-wide BNI membership, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the first time I've delivered it like this, so your feedback would be great. Any bits that felt a bit laboured, or, you know, or I just didn't explain them, you know, in the right way, or couldn't get the message across, any feedback back like that would be really, really appreciated. But yeah, 100%. I mean, I wanted to do it for Apollo just because, like I said, it's about educating my sales team, and what better way than to, you know, deliver a sort of training like this on stuff I've got to say I love talking about. So it's, you know, it's always a pleasure to sort of to do it. So it never feels like a job or a chore. So I'd welcome the opportunity for any feedback, and then I can refine it and improve it, and just make sure it, you know, it delivers what we need it to deliver. But yeah, I appreciate that, David. That's great feedback.
I certainly think you could definitely do in the headquarters region. There's obviously eight regions within that, and there's a few sort of changes taking place towards the structure next year. So I'll feed that back definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Could be really good. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's it. That's one of my sort of final big sort of duties before Christmas. I think, you know, we can all start to sort of wind down a little bit and hopefully enjoy a little bit of time. But it feels like the world has changed. I was finalising the slides, you know, this morning, and my sort of daughter came in and said, "Oh, have you seen the news, Dad?" And I said, "No. I'm not sure I want to know because I'm focused on this." And then she sort of, you know, over lunch, we kind of talked about it. So it feels like the world's changed a little bit, even just in these last few hours. But it is what it is. And I think that's the important thing, to sort of try and have a plan, you know, for your business, and, you know, and a strategy that you can then adapt, you know, as you see fit, as you sort of go through the year. But certainly the stuff on the brand and the perception of your business in the mind's eye of your customers is one of the most important parts of this process, because it's not what we think, it's what they think is really important.
Fantastic.
Cool, guys. Listen, thank you so much. As I say, it's all been recorded. You've got the worksheets. Obviously you've got my email address, and you can even pick up the phone and I'll happily sort of take a call. And Michaela, you know, if you do want to have a chat next week, then we can do that, and I can give you a bit of advice and a bit of guidance on that.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone. And David, thanks for your messages, and we'll speak in the new year, if not before.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks very much, Steve, and thanks everyone again.
Thank you.
No worries, guys. Thank you so much. Take care. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And to you. Bye for now.
Bye.